good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time period in which that you're watching it. I hope you're having a good day. So today we're going to spend about 15 minutes on baptism, again to prepare us for our discussion on Friday. So let's just jump right into it. We started with a couple of simple questions. The first one being, what does baptism mean to you? If you're not baptized, what does it represent to you? And again, I just wanted to get a baseline. And the baseline for most people is it welcomes you into a community, true, and it washes you of original sin, true. But again, as we'll see, it gets a little bit more complicated. There's more to it than that. All right. The next question I asked you was, has my baptism ever put me at odds with my culture? Either yes, it has never put me at odds, or no, it has put me at odds. Could have asked that question a little bit better, but basically it's saying your baptism. Is everybody on board? Are you on board? And does everyone sort of match that thinking? And again, I got the very insightful question idea of, well, what do you mean by culture? Again, Himes is talking about society in general, and we'll get to that. But again, it could be seen as if you are baptized, and for example, take my case. I'm baptized. Pretty much everyone in my family is Catholic. Actually, I think everyone in my family is Catholic, right? So again, me being baptized, normal, everyday condition. All right. It's just normal. So within my bubble, no, like I not odd or unusual or anything like that. And then I shared the story with you where again my faith sort of came into conflict with the greater world around me. So that bubble was kind of popped at a very, very early age. All right. I'm here to tell you that again, if your bubble hasn't been popped yet, it will be soon when you go off to college. You're gonna encounter people who have different understandings, different insights. They're from different backgrounds, cultures, race, religion, countries, right? And so again, you're going to be put at odds sometimes because again, their insight is going to conflict with some sort of insight that you have. So you have to engage in it. So again, that's sort of a nice segue in terms of your baptism within your bubble may make sense, but once you step out of that bubble, then you'll see that the world is again got differing ideas and all that other stuff. So, but we're gonna focus primarily on baptism as it relates to society. But again, once you have a clear insight about what baptism means, it may put you in conflict within that bubble as well, because again, you may have a greater depth of knowledge, a greater understanding, and you will have a greater responsibility than those who may not have been evangelized this particular understanding of baptism. All right, so that's where we left off. But again, the three big ideas, let's see if I get three, that I want everyone to sort of take away from this is one, baptism is life and death. It really, really is. Again, it's not sort of the romantic notion of new life that we're given, and we'll talk about that. All right. Number two, right? Baptism, it has certain responsibilities. All right. Again, we're not often talked about or related to the responsibilities. Sorry, I was distracted by a dog outside. All right. So again, there's certain responsibilities that come with it. There's the dog, saw the other dog as well. And then the third thing is once you know what those rights and responsibilities are you then put in conflict with the society around you? So the odds are we're going to come back to this question. We're going to see if your answers are different. Again, for about roughly 2/3, most people say that your baptisms really never put you at odds with culture. Some of you have said so, but again, we'll see what happens after the presentation. So again, those are your three big ideas. Again, just to repeat, to understand that baptism is yes, life and death. What are your roles and responsibilities in baptism? And again, do those roles and responsibilities put you in conflict with society? Three big ideas. All right, let's start into the new stuff. Let's start with this idea of life and death. So we talked about, and again, the last question that we talked about, and then it'll be all new stuff the last 10 minutes, right? Is why doesn't baptism feel like a life death proposition? You gave great answers, and they're all true. It happens so young, right? So you don't really kind of think about it. We're mostly a Christian nation, so again, everyone, at least we think everyone's baptized, but again, it's a little taboo to be like, are you baptized? Are you bit like, again, if you're in the South, it's definitely not a taboo question to ask. But again, for the majority of us, again, you don't go around talking about your baptism or your beliefs of it and things like that. So it's just not in our regular everyday kind of thinking. All right. There are some exceptions to that. Again, the group known as Anabaptists, and again, they're simply against infant baptism. They're not against baptism itself. But again, that is something that happens when you're older baptism. So again, there's a lot more concentration on this life and death question. All right. So again, is it life and death? Well, yes, and we'll get into that here in a moment. Again, you could say it's definitely life and death, 1700, 1800, 1900 years ago when Christianity first emerged, where being a Christian could get you martyred, right? You would die for your faith. Again, not to the emphasis that Himes gives or a lot of your teachers in the past may have given you, that again, all it was for the first 300 years of the church was martyrdom, martyrdom, martyrdom. But it was definitely overhanging. All right. It definitely was a very serious question. All right. Again, you couldn't live the life that you lived before. Again, maybe you got baptized and your parents didn't. So again, you may get ostracized. All right. You can't participate in certain festivals and jobs because they're pagan, right? So again, your life would have very much different. And again, you would have been putting your life on the line. I don't think that way now, but the reality is that we should. All right. Again, your understanding of baptism, all right, isn't exactly as clear cut as we would like to think. All right. And that's why we have this that's why we use something like water. It's a double-edged sword. It can both give life, right? And you drink water, you water your plants, we're mostly made out of water and things like that. So it's life-giving and life affirming. But you know, hurricanes, tidal waves, murder seems to want to murder us pretty consistently, right? And again, if you're drinking salty water, you'll dehydrate, you'll die, you can drown. Like water is both life-giving and life-taking. All right. So again, is baptism a celebration of life and birth, or is it a celebration of death and birth? What is the difference? There is one. We'll explain here in a second. All right. But that's your question. I don't know how many questions I've gotten through in the Ed puzzle at this point in time, but here's the question. What is the difference between celebrating baptism as life and birth and celebrating baptism as a death and birth? All right. Probably some sort of pause here. I don't know. Might be off. Hopefully it gives you a good chuckle. But anyways, now I can talk about it, right? Again, as a lot of you pointed out, the other reason that we don't take baptism maybe as this life and death proposition is because we only see it as life affirming. Oh, look, there's a new baby. Like, oh, the baby been baptized. That means there's a new life and all that other stuff. Absolutely true. Not trying to diminish that. Beautiful thing. That's not really what baptism is about, right? Baptism is about death. Mr. Back That Star. You're not wrong. But again, let's think about what's really happening in a baptism. We'll get more into it when it comes to the roles and responsibilities. All right. But again, when you are baptized, you are dying. You are dying to a world of sin. All right. You are washed of your original sin. We'll get into more complex understandings of original sin as we go on, but you are dying to a world of sin. And where is the majority of sin found? Some of it's found in the church, full of people. People are fallible. All right. All right. The church is without sin, but the people in the church are sinners. So, yes, I get that. But again, the majority of the sinning, all right, is coming from the outside world. So you are going to die to that outside world. You are no longer going to live by the rules of society, right? Who do we worship in society? Celebrities, athletes, TikTok accounts, Instagram. We're all chasing that celebrity. We're chasing the money. When you're baptized, you're dead to that. That part of society is dead to you. Does that mean you can't celebrate going to a football game and cheering on your favorite team and your athlete? No. But can they take time away from service of others? Absolutely not. That is no longer in the cards for you if you've been baptized. All right? To be of service to others. All right? It's no longer a proposition of, well, service is a race and there's an inline, and once I've gone to church this week, or I held that door open, or I gave some money, like, check that off. I'm a good person. Don't need to worry about that anymore. No, it's not that. All right. Let's think about what Jesus said. Again, love others as I have loved you, agapic love. But right before that in the Gospel of John, what does Jesus do? He washes the feet. He washes the feet of the apostles, and he says that this is the example of leadership. All right, because again, people are in leadership positions. They've reached the mountain, right? Like, I'm in charge. What I say is law, and once I'm done, the world will be a better place, and I don't need to engage anymore because I've done everything. Compare that to, let's say, a teacher. Brag. Not wrong, but I mean, just think in the mindset of a teacher, or essential workers, or doctors and nurses, and people working at restaurants, and people working in grocery stores. right? Again, a lot of those people don't see as up, I did my service today. Check it off. All right. Again, doctors and nurses, teachers, grocery workers, all those, they don't turn it off. They don't say, oh, I've reached the pinnacle. They're like, what can I do next? I've served today, but I got to serve tomorrow. And again, I did a good job today, but I can do a better job tomorrow because they have died to the reality that, again, service is a one-time thing. They have died to the idea that service is a race and that once you finish the race, you just sort of throw your hands up and go, I'm good. I don't need a race no more. I completed the marathon. I can throw my sticker on the back of my truck and everyone can know that I run really long distances for no reason. I still don't understand it. I mean, is it worth the exercise? I don't know. But anyways, service or servants, particularly, they don't see the work as ever being done. They've died to that world. And again, the world's going to tell you that again. You're just running a race. You don't need to worry about things. Once you get there, you're good to go. You did this, you did the other. Just check it off your list. You're good to go. That's life deceiving you. That's society telling you what your baptism means. It's not the church because the church doesn't affirm that. The church affirms that baptism is a continual thing. It's something that you can renew constantly. Both literally, we'll talk about that, and then figuratively through your everyday actions of, I'll hold the door open today for one person. I'm going to do two. I'm going to hold the door open for two people tomorrow. I donated a dollar today. I'm going to donate $2 tomorrow. It's just, there's always more. There's above and beyond because the world says that once you've hit that benchmark, you're good. You don't need to worry about it again. The church says you need to worry about it all the time, constantly. A lot of the problems of the world are people saying, well, I've reached the mountaintop. I'm good to go. I can quit now. No, you can't. You might even have more to do. All right. Some people have more responsibilities. All right. Some people wield more power and influence. And usually their only concern is getting more power and influence and not using what little power and influence they have for the betterment of others. So usually those who have no power and influence that are using whatever they have to make the life of those around them better. So you see where the church is saying, hey, look, you got this example. And again, that's the life affirming, hey, you can go get your bucks. That's not really the case because when you're baptized, it's a continuous struggle. You need to die to that reality, to that world around you. And you got to say, I'm going to live in a different world. I'm going to live in a world of service and of never stopping and never being satisfied. All right. So again, then you get baptized, then you get some questions. We probably won't be able to get through all these questions. We'll end before the free will problem. Again, I want to go into that during class time, right? Because again, that seems to be the big question for you. But when you're baptized, all right, again, we talked about why it's a life and death proposition. Now we can talk about, the questions, which gets us to the roles and responsibilities. But again, let's go over question number one, which is, do you believe in God the Father? All right. Again, that's a good question, and Himes does a pretty good job of sort of really getting there. But again, let's cut to the chase. When someone asks you that during baptism, they're asking some very different questions, some in between the lines stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got to go in between the lines. And one of the lines is, "Do you believe that your life has meaning?" Most of us would answer in the affirmative. Of course, my life has meaning. But do you believe that your parents and you yourself aren't the ones that gave your life meaning? Again, in other words, do you believe that you aren't really master of your fate? You're not master of your universe and you control everything around you. That you are simply a ship and you are at the mercy of the ocean. We're water, of course we're water, because again, this is where it's coming from, among other things. All right? Now, if you believe those, if you affirm those things, you're also affirming that that meaning came from someone or from something. All right. And then that will throw us into the free will problem. Again, if I can, like, if God has a plan for me and, if I, this, that, yeah, we're going to get into we're going to go into depth on that one tomorrow. But for right now, my time is basically up. Again, give you a little bit of food for thought, get us jump started for the discussion on Friday. Again, hopefully we can go about 20 minutes or so. That's my goal. And we'll really sort of flex those discussion muscles as we go on. In the meantime, let me know if you have any questions, concerns, and things like that. And I will talk to everybody on Thursday.